can we stop doing things that don't really matter? I know it's a pre-season unfriendly. I know it doesn't matter and no one gets silverware and you can't. But if we're playing in the shirt, whatever colour the shirt is, can we just make sure that we give 100%? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal. And so we have to talk about last night's game in New Jersey against Manchester United, the pre-season friendly, or was it pre-season unfriendly? Now, I think comment of the day goes to Arsenal Banter for saying that people who take pre-season friendlies seriously are the same people who clap on aeroplanes. And by the way, if you don't follow Arsenal Banter on Facebook and you have a Facebook account, you're really missing out, honestly. I absolutely agree with that. There is nothing to glean from a pre-season friendly. However, you kind of know how you feel. Watching that match last night was disappointing, was boring, and did raise a couple of concerns. So whilst I'm not going to go on this video talking about how this defines a season or that we can really start to take problems from it, I'd like to have the honest conversation about it. And I welcome any of your comments where you disagree or even if you agree with me in the comments below. But starting off, the lineup was a strong one, but it did have a couple of things in there that will make you think. First of all, obviously Ramsdale in goal. Timber started at right back. Now, we're all really excited about Jurrien Timber. He's something new. He's something that, you know, comes with a lot of promise. He's heralded. A lot of Ajax fans will tell you he's a really great player. A couple would also tell you that he's got a mistake in him. Not that he's quite Harry Maguire, but that, you know, he isn't perfect, and who is? But he started on the right with Saliba and Gabriel and Tomiyasu at left back. Now, before Tomiyasu's injury, he had really acquitted himself well at left back. He obviously somebody that Arteta thinks very highly of in that position because he started him against Man City in that ill-fated home game where it was Tomiyasu's mistake that led to a Kevin De Bruyne, very special Kevin De Bruyne goal. But so Tomiyasu, but it just brings up the question, doesn't it? We have Tierney on the bench and we play Kivior at left back. We play Tomiyasu at left back, but we're still not really bringing Tierney in. I thought, obviously he did come on, but can you read anything into that? Is that a pecking order? If Zinni's back fit, does it go Zinni, Tomiyasu, or, you know, anyway. That was something that came out of it. Obviously, the Odegaard, Havertz and Rice midfield, which I think we all expect to play most often next season, or sorry, this season, was in full view, and really exciting to see Declan Rice in a shirt. And I just want to take a slight detour here. I did a video after or just before the USA game, the mauling of the All-Stars, the 5-star 5-0 demolition job that we did. That's so much more exciting than the game last night. And I did this kind of admittedly slightly clickbaity title, which is, you know, is it too soon to be able to tell that Havertz isn't going to make it? Or I can't actually remember what my title was, isn't that bad. But I got a lot of comments saying it's too soon. That was my point. My point is, you can't judge a player until he's at least played a competitive match. And ideally, more than one. Ideally, give the guy some time to settle in and bed in. But that midfield yesterday would start worrying you if you took these things overly seriously. We were kind of out-fought, out-muscled. And, you know, I think I was quite glad when Thomas Partey came on. And then not so glad. Anyway. Saka, Nketiah and Martinelli. And if there's one other thing that does give me concerns, it's that Eddie Nketiah up front just does not look at the pace. Again, look, I thought he started brightly and he showed some bursts of pace, but I can't have been the only person hoping that Balogun would get thrown on. So what have we learned from it? Like, let's start off with the obvious point. Pre-season friendlies are just a kickabout. The Man United team we saw last night, I think that is pretty much the Man United team we're going to see for most of the season. They are aggressive. They are industrial. They don't have that kind of... I mean, they've got players like Anthony and Jadon Sancho and Fernandes on the pitch, but I want to talk about those. Jadon Sancho, from a couple of years ago in the England squad when I saw him, I thought he was a world-class player. Where's he gone? You know, he took his goal well enough, but there's not the excitement there, and it was playing in a slightly different position from the one I think which is ideally suited to. But Antony, I don't get it. How does he get minutes? For me, he's the most useless player. I think it's him and Richarlison would make the worst 11 of the Premier League every single time. I don't get it. If you're a Man United fan, you're watching this, let me know what the fuss is about Antony. I just don't get it. Fernandes, that is a weird choice of captain, isn't it? If the captain encapsulates or represents what the team stands for, then our Man United are just kind of game playing, kind of whingy, go missing when it goes wrong. I think if Martinelli had scored first, like it looked like he was going to do, we might have seen a completely different game, because I don't feel that this Man United team is ready. Now, obviously, they still have Onana to put in goal. It was disappointing that we never really tested their goal. But the Manchester United team we saw yesterday, they've taken an awful lot of abuse from all sections of Arsenal fan base for how nasty and niggly they were. But that's the players they've got on the pitch, right? That's how they play. They're saying up if the purpose of a pre-season friendly is to get into the mode that you're going to play the rest of the season, I think they did that yesterday. They weren't there to put on a show for the thousands of fans, and you've got to say, like, it is brilliant how well supported both teams are in America. So I get that, you know, there's an element of that. Why we're playing Man United pre-season? I've really done. We're playing them on I think it's the 3rd of September anyway. It's such a hiding to nothing. If we'd slaughtered them yesterday, we would have just continued in this confidence. You'd think the purpose of a pre-season friendly is to get some game time under your belt and start building those relationships. When you look at the strength of last season's team, it was because Arteta played pretty much the first team as often as he could. There were partnerships. Ben White's partnership with Saka was instrumental. Zinchenko with Martinelli. We were missing all of that yesterday. I think we need to give these players time to bed in. We have held on to the players who were most important from last season, with the exception of Xhaka. I do feel that we have players to go into that 8 role. And I think that Havertz has all the potential to be fantastic in that position. And of course, I trust in Arteta and I trust in his judgment of this. But it is also true that we have Vieira and Emil Smith-Rowe that can come into that position. And we may see 1 or 2 more signings before the start of the season. Although I hope they're not panic buys. I don't think they will be. But the big question for me is Eddie Nketiah. After the match, I was really pleased with Arteta's post-match press conference, because I was still not sure how I felt about it. I viscerally felt disappointed and let down by the performance. And when he was asked what we've learned from the performance, he said, we've learned that we hate losing. I'm sure we knew that anyway. But there may be something to the idea of that dressing room after that match being angry with each other and realising they have to raise their game. I think we've got the characters to do it. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the view that when we have poor pre-seasons, that we have poor starts to the season. Last season, obviously, we had a fantastic pre-season with some exceptional games, particularly the 5-0 over Sevilla, which led to this really good start to the season. But note of caution here, the start to last season was pretty good because it was not great opposition we were up against. That's always going to be a key part of this. We have done our transfer business early. We've brought these players in and we're giving them a chance to form relationships. They are on a pre-season tour. If the game against Barcelona goes ahead, and it might not do just because there's been an outbreak of gastroenteritis, which meant Barcelona weren't able to play their game yesterday. But if it goes ahead, or if there is a replacement... But if it goes ahead, or if there is a replacement match, then we're going to have more time for these players to bid in. The other thing Arteta said in his post-match conference was that the players you didn't see in this game is because he wanted to give the players who did play yesterday actual minutes. I was surprised we didn't do a wholesale change at half-time, but I was quite glad of it, actually, that the players who had the kind of disappointing first half got a chance to prove themselves in the second half. And if I'm not going to bang on about how Kai Havertz was surprisingly invisible, given that he was wearing a high-vis vest. I do just want to dwell on the Eddie Nketiah situation, because whether it's his confidence or his skill level or his ability, and that must be great for him to be linking back up with Declan Rice, who, you know, was a good friend of his in the Chelsea youth squad. But I haven't seen anything from Eddie pretty much since that game against Manchester United where he scored the last gasp winner. I haven't seen anything from him that would make me put him up there. So for him to be up front, kind of toothless, not necessarily playing well with his back to goal, we do need to hope that Balogun, I think we all wanted to see Balogun because he just brings something else, and it's still not clear if he's going to be sold or not. I kind of pour a little bit of lukewarm water on the idea that Inter are desperate to sign him. It's just not an Inter thing to do. You know, I mean, he hasn't got the high profile that the Interisi are going to need to really get behind a player. And he'd have a terrible time there if he doesn't start scoring goals straight away. And the Italian league, it's not the French league. You know, you're up against some of the best defenders. But I do think that we need to see Balogun. And by all accounts, from what Arteta's saying, we are going to see Balogun start the game, should it go ahead against Barcelona. I totally understand people saying, you know, you can't divine too much from a pre-season friendly. But you can admit when you're disappointed in a performance across the whole team yesterday. And also, I want to say that I just also quickly got to talk about penalty shootouts. I don't like penalty shootouts. Does anyone enjoy penalty shootouts, really? You know, I mean, I can't remember a time I've enjoyed them. So to have them, even if the game is won, I mean, Man United scored all theirs. There's hardly any pressure on them to score theirs. But here's the thing. Turner, who does save penalties, maybe just bring him on for penalty shootouts if we have them, because there's two things about Ramsdale. One, I can't remember him ever saving one. I can't remember him ever going the right direction. That's not fair, actually. I think I can remember him diving the right direction. But does it bother anyone else when he's smiling like it doesn't matter? A bit like the skills challenge we did, where it's just like we did it, but it doesn't really matter. Can we stop doing things that don't really matter? I know it's a pre-season unfriendly. I know it doesn't matter and no one gets silverware and you can't. But if we're playing in the shirt, whatever colour the shirt is, can we just make sure that we give 100%? Because that's what it means. You know, there's for the millions of fans around the world that support Arsenal, who would love to have just one chance to put that shirt on, even in a pre-season unfriendly, friendly, whatever you want to call it, kick a boot. For those people, for me, can you just really give it some? Because that's what they're for. You know, winning mentality, you don't turn it off and on. You got to want this. I think that they were up against a very direct Man United, which is probably not what anyone expects from Man United even now, and a niggly win at all costs Man United. But we're going to face teams like that all the way through the season, and I would like us to take from this game that taste of defeat, which hopefully spurs us on. We can't be nonchalant, we can't be cocky, we can't be overconfident because we've had a good transfer window, and we can't think anyone's going to give us anything, even in friendlies. So, yeah, overall, in summation, just a very dull match with loads of disappointments that I'm not ready to be worried about yet. I do have a particularly strong opinion of Eddie Nketiah. I think that I hope I'm completely wrong, because he seems like an outstanding young man, and I would love to see him come good. I would love to see him at the tip of an attack that sets the Premier League on fire. But I just don't believe, and every time I see him, confirms that a little more. Balogun, on the other hand, is a little bit exciting. Looking at his stats, looking at his numbers, looking at his attitude, looking that arrogance, that cockiness, that knowing what he wants, that determination. So I don't necessarily think we have to go out and buy a Vlahovic, or I do think that we scored enough goals last season, and I think Kai Havertz will play really well, but obviously needs a bit more bedding in time. Anyway, really looking forward. I hope the game against Barcelona does go ahead, but probability of me staying up to the early hours in the morning when I've got to be up at 7 o'clock the next day, not good. That's part of what you get for doing these tours in the United States. I'd like to see us do a similar tour in places like Indonesia and Malaysia, which have huge Arsenal fan bases, and where a game would be like a really watchable sort of early morning game or afternoon game here in the UK. Anyway, it's not going to happen now, but let me know in the comments what you think. Massive love for all of your support. I've been really touched by the positive comments. That was my humble opinion on the Arsenal match. Let me hear all about yours. If you haven't done so yet and you're watching to this point, you know, click subscribe. It won't cost you anything, and it makes me smile every time somebody does. Click like, share with your friends. Anyway, that's been my opinion on the unfriendly match against Man United, who are dreadful to watch, and I can understand why nobody wants to own them, frankly. But until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.